Gentlemen, what will you do if one by one everything that you built was stripped from you? Your job, your home, your dignity, even your peace. Today, I want to tell you the story of Jenga. Jenga was 26 when life broke him. Before COVID-19, Jenga was just another young man living in Kayole, tall, lanky, with the restless energy of someone who still believed that tomorrow may be better. His clothes were simple. He wore a checked shirt with frayed cuffs, and he had trousers that were stained with dust from the construction sites where he worked. He had shoes whose soles were worn thin by countless walks to look for work. He always smelled faintly of cement and sweat, but he carried himself with the quiet dignity of a man who still believed that there was hope. When Jenga met Frida, her laughter had been a balm. It calmed him and it brought a lot of light into his life. She was a slender lady with the skin the color of roasted groundnuts and hair that she tied in a loose band that always seemed to escape its knot, so she kept fixing it every other time. Frida had a soft, calm way of speaking that steadied Jenga when he doubted himself, so she was very reassuring and supportive. They married quickly, just before the world shut down. And then came COVID-19. The first blow that hit Fred was his job loss, that hit Njenga, sorry. So one day Njenga was hauling timber and bags of cement on a construction site. The next day, the site was shut down, the boss was gone, and his phone calls went unanswered. The silence in the city was strange. The streets that once rang with hawkers' cries now sat still, as if the air itself was holding its breath. You guys remember the time of COVID-19. So the first blow was the loss of his job. The second blow was eviction. His landlord in Kayole did knocked his door one morning, his voice as hard as stone, and he demanded rent that Njenga did not have. Within hours, their clothes, their plates, their few utensils, and their mattresses were in a heap outside their rusty door. With nowhere else to go, Njenga took Frida, who by that time was pregnant, and their few belongings back to his village. The shack that awaited them was a single mud hut in his village with cracked walls that were full of lizards that darted across the ceiling at night. And you can imagine Frida was very jumpy and terrified when she was seeing all these lizards darting across the walls. Spiders nested in the corners, their webs swaying in the breeze that whistled through the holes in the roof. So when Jenga swept it out, he patched where he could, and he tried to convince himself that it was only temporary. But the food that they had, it quickly ran out. Remember, now they're in the village. Hunger became a silent visitor that sat with them every morning. So Njenga had to make a very painful decision, the most painful decision of his life. He had to leave Frida in the village, and he returned to Nairobi to look for a miracle. Okay? When he returned to Nairobi, despite the travel restrictions, the city had changed. Its noise was gone, but its smell was even worse. Stale urine, exhaust fumes, and a damp earth after the rains. Njenga drifted like a shadow, carrying a single grimy bag with all that he owned. Some nights he slept under the shop verandas, his body curled up on the cold cement, turtling up like a fetus. He was staring at the dim orange glow of distant streetlights. Other nights, the watchman shared scraps of food with him, whatever little he made. Sometimes he only made 50 shillings. He sent this money to Frida, okay? Because he knew she was pregnant and she was going to give birth soon. She needed food. He even went hungry and sent her the little money he had. And then when Frida gave birth, now on a read mat, okay, Jenga borrowed a stranger's phone to call because he didn't have a phone. So on the other end, he heard the first cry of his daughter. And it was sharp, it was small, but alive. It cracked his heart wide open. He smiled through the tears, promising to find fare to go and see his daughter in the village. But his joy was short-lived. Frida was starving. And remember, this is a woman who was just given birth. She has to breastfeed. She was only drinking sugarless uji, because that's what she could get, just enough to keep the milk flowing so that the baby could feed. Neighbors would bring food once in a while to see the baby and to visit, but for most days, hunger stretched into the night. So Jenga told her over and over that the next month he would buy a blanket. He had memorized her phone number, calling through strangers' phones. Sometimes he was standing by a kiosk under the glare of neon lights as cold wind beat through his thin shirt. Then one day, the call went differently. When Frida picked the call, there was silence, a silence that frightened him. Is the baby okay? Jenga asked, his throat tightening. There was only a sniffle, then a sigh that seemed to carry all the sorrow in the world. He felt a cold snake slithering through his stomach and coiling around his heart. Frida, didn't I ask you a question? He asked her, his voice trembling, but he tried to make it sound firm. So all he heard was Frida saying, God, what did we do to you? What did we do to you, God? She was sobbing. Her voice was breaking into a wail. She was not even listening to him now on the phone. She was talking to heaven. Jenga's knees buckled. The vein on his temple throbbed until it felt like it could burst. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Frida, Frida, he yelled. Tears were now running freely down his cheeks, but Frida was gone. He was lost in grief. Another woman's voice came on the line. Call her later, she said softly. Then the phone went dead. The world tilted. Jenga felt the air leave his lungs. He staggered and sank to the dust like a puppet whose strings had been cut. A man nearby, Omosh, he stepped forward and gently pried the phone from Njenga's fingers. Pole Buddha, he's a Joe, Omosh told him, sensing the tragedy even without knowing the details. You could see from Njenga's body language that there's something terrible had happened. So Jenga sat there motionlessly, dust sticking to his sweat, damp face. His chest felt hollow, and like a drum that has been beaten too hard, it felt ripped apart. The city noises that were around him, the distant matatu horns, the occasional barking of dogs, they sounded far away, as if coming through water. Jenga had reached rock bottom, gentlemen. So Jenga's story is not unique. This has happened to countless of men, and it may still happen to those of you it has not happened to. It's the story of millions of men, men who have been crushed by life before they had the tools to fight back. So I'm going to give you the tools to fight back, but here is the truth. Rock bottom is not where the story ends. It is actually where the man begins. So what will you do if you are in Jenga? You've lost everything. Your wife, pregnant wife, is at home. She's delivered a baby. She cannot get food to eat. The baby dies. You don't even have a mobile phone. You don't have money to go back to the village to visit or to see your wife. Will you break? Will you numb yourself with alcohol, cheap liquor, bang? Will you blame the government? Will you blame fate? Will you become an acolyte of these pastors of funny churches? Or will you rise brick by brick and rebuild yourself? So Jenga's story forces us to ask, when life strips you bare, do you stay down or do you use that bottom rock as the foundation for something stronger? So rock bottom is where boys die, but that is where men are born. Rock bottom is not a curse. It is an initiation. It is the universe's way of stripping you naked to reveal who you are. It reveals your illusions, your excuses, your fake friends, your comfort zones, and it forces you to look yourself in the mirror. It is where you find out what you're really made of. I've been there myself. Many men have been there. Some of you might be sitting on the rock bottom right now. So no money, no friends, no woman, no one calling your phone. You are invisible to the world, completely alone. And that is good. Because, gentlemen, rock bottom is the solid ground upon which you build a fortress. And this is how you do that. How do you rise from rock bottom? The first thing is you build from the bottom rock. Rock bottom is not your grave. It is your foundation. Ryan Holiday tells us in The Obstacle is the Way that obstacles are not interruptions to life. They are life. When you have lost everything, you are finally free from fear, free from judgment, and free from playing it safe. So when you have nothing to lose, you become dangerous. This is the moment you stop asking, why me? And start saying, watch me. Start building brick by brick. Your future self is counting on you if you have hit rock bottom. The second thing is you need to cultivate ruthless gratitude. If you are breathing, you are still in the fight. The Nigerians say you should never laugh at a man as long as he's still alive. And Jordan Peterson in the 12 Rules for Life reminds us that gratitude is the antidote to resentment. And resentment is poison to a man's soul. So you may have lost everything, but if you can walk, if you can see, if you can speak, you still have weapons left in your arsenal. Gratitude fuels hope, and hope fuels action. The third thing you have to do is you have to become resilient and anti-fragile. Pain is not your enemy. It is your blacksmith. Sit with your pain, sit in your pain, study it, and let it forge you the way iron is forged in a crucible. So Nassim Nicholas Taleb tells us about being anti-fragile. You don't just survive stress, you get stronger from it. Every setback becomes a data point. Every insult becomes a lesson. And every heartbreak becomes a weight you lift until your emotional muscles are carved out of iron. So as the Stoics would say, obstacle is the way. The fourth thing is you must take ruthless responsibility. Blame is a luxury you can no longer afford when you're at rock bottom. Jocko Willink in Extreme Ownership says it clearly. own everything in your world. When you take responsibility, you take back power. So stop waiting for politicians, your boss, your mama, your baby mama, or your family to rescue you. You need to rescue yourself. The fifth thing you have to do is you have to monetize any skills, even small ones. You must make money. Sell something, anything. You can wash cars, you can fry chips, you can sell peanuts on the roadside. You can start roasting maize on the roadside. Do everything you must do to make some money. Don't just sit there. Don't look for a job. Do what you must do. Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs reminds us that work is not the enemy. Work is a pathway back to dignity. So you must work. When you start earning even a small amount, you rebuild your self-respect and you establish confidence with yourself. You establish trust with yourself. Money that is earned through your sweat feels different from money handed to you out of pity. So don't beg, work hard. The sixth thing you need to do is you need to reskill, you need to rebuild, and you need to reforge. Every hour that you spend sulking is an hour you could spend learning. Take free online courses, learn a trade, learn digital marketing, sales, coding, anything that increases your value to the market. Read all kinds of books. You have to reforge yourself and you have to reskill and rebuild. Remember that your value as a man is what you can create, solve, build, and provide. The seventh thing is you need to pursue your purpose like a soldier. Purpose is what will keep you alive when motivation dies. So get clear about your mission. Write it down. Put it where you can see it every day. Nothing lasts forever. And when the storm passes, let the man who walks out of it unrecognizable, be unrecognizable to the man who walked in. You owe it to yourself that every storm forges you to become a different person. Transform yourself. And this purpose is very important because I've seen people who get opportunities, maybe it's a job, but because they don't have a purpose, they squander it. And when they lose those jobs, they have nothing to hold on to or nothing to look forward to. So you must have a purpose. That is your compass. The eighth thing you need to do is to stay in the fight, no matter what. There will always be days when it feels like nothing is changing. But every rep you do, every book you read, every job you take, every small decision you take, it compounds on the previous one. Adopt the mindset of these too shall pass, because it always does. Nothing lasts forever. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. The ninth thing you have to do is to use the clarity of rock bottom. When you have lost everything, you finally see who was real and who was fake. Okay? You finally see which habits destroyed you, which mistakes you made, who did you trust, what comfort brought to you. Okay? You finally see what needs to change in your life. Use this clarity to rewrite your life script. Stop waiting for permission. Build discipline, build boundaries, and build yourself. The 10th thing you have to do is you rebuild your masculine frame. This is your last chance to rebuild yourself from the ground up, physically, mentally, financially, and spiritually. So hit the gym, read books, learn to fight, learn to sell, learn to lead. Okay? Women, money, and respect, all of them will come as a byproduct of when you get right by yourself first. You need to get yourself right first. So Jenga's story is not about staying angry, bitter, or resentful. It's about rising from rock bottom. So the question I leave with you today is quite simple. Will you stay down when you hit rock bottom? Or will you rise? Use the rock bottom as a foundation and build the man you are always meant to become. So gentlemen, if Jenga's story has lit something inside you, Speak up. What rock are you standing on tonight or today? What are you going to build? So tell us in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.